What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, the Dad Bod God, the bald, the beard, and that fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight I am joined by the legendary Marty fucking Jones. And I'm excited to have Marty Jones, Mr. Jones, I should say. And I should probably watch my swearing in language in front of Mr. Jones. I'm not sure if he's, too free with the F-bomb. So I'll be respectful and try and keep him to a minimum. But guys, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to have on the legendary Marty Jones. But before we get into tonight's episode, I need to take a quick second to thank our sponsor, Sleefs. That's SLEEFS, sleefs.com. If you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to go and check out Sleeves. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes you're always hearing me rave about. So guys, go and check out sleeves.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in the world, I'm talking all over my words today. I am so sorry. But let's get on with tonight's show with the one and only Marty Jones. What is going on? The one and only, the legendary Marty Jones in the house. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Not a problem at all. That was one hell of an introduction.
Well, I try and keep everybody impressed with the intros. It's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for giving up your time this Tuesday morning for you over in the UK. But Marty, exciting times, ahead. We're going to see you traveling down to Australia to come visit some friends and family down here in the not too distant future. But, Marty, you've had such a legendary career. You've had a hand in training some amazing names in the business as well, and wrestled some amazing names in the business. Over the years, you wrestled a great deal throughout the 80s and 90s. How is the body holding up today?
Not good. That's one point that how can I say, hits a nerve with me when the general public or people know that I used to be a 7 times world professional wrestling champion and I've wrestled all my life. And then you say wrestlers don't get hurt. That really pisses me off, I said, because the last 3 years, in fact, when I was over in Australia approximately 3 years ago, I was great, had a great time, saw some fantastic people, visited some fantastic wrestling schools, and obviously my daughter lives in Australia, and it was a great time. Now, the thing is, I've just had, I won't bore you, but wrestlers do get hurt. And what happened, I needed an ankle fusion. In other words, there's a gap, bone on my ankle. And the surgeon just said I should be in a wheelchair because it's been grinding away. Anyway, I went to have the operation. And before he did that, he said, unfortunately, I'm going to have to do not the operation on your right ankle. We're going to have to do your left knee. I said, what's wrong with my left knee? He said, it's in bits. I said, I was a wrestler. He said, no, once we operate on your right ankle, all the weight's going to be on your knee. And I'm frightened that it'll collapse. So I had a full knee construction on my left knee. It was great. I was in the gym doing squats and everything, not a problem. And then I got infection in it 14 months later.
Oh.
So they had to take the knee out and give me another one. So it was 2 knees. All the time, my ankle was giving me a lot of pain. I had to walk with an aid, like a crutch, you know. And it was embarrassing, you know, because I loved the wrestling business. And it's been good to me. And then even the surgeon said to his colleague, when I was on the getting ready to have the epidural type of thing for the second operation, he said, Marty, Mr. Jones is famous wrestler. And this surgeon just looked at him and said, wrestling, like that American stuff on TV. And I said, yeah, but I did Olympic wrestling as well. Oh, he said, it's all a joke, that. He said, it's all fixed, isn't it? He said, nobody gets hurt. And I'm on the table, ready for an operation. And I felt like drop kicking this fella. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just the way they are. But anyway, I had my knee done and it didn't work at all. So they gave me another knee. So for you people that don't know, I've had 3 new knees on my left leg. Then I've had the ankle. It was great. I had the operation, but they had 17 screws and a plate put in my ankle. And then after 3 or 4 months, one of the screws came through the side of my foot. When I was putting my sock on, I went, oh shit, my hand's bleeding. I'd caught, anyway, the screw had snapped and come through the side of my foot. So I went back to the hospital and they took the screws out and left 3 screws in. And then 2 days later, my ankle snapped completely. So I've had to do it all again. So as I am now, as you quite rightly said, I've got to visit my daughter because I've not seen, I said 3 years, I think it is. Well, I've got a grandson now. He'll be he's over 2. I think I'm useless for dates, but I haven't seen him for 2 years due to this injury and this, that, and the other. So I'm making it my utmost to go back to Australia, want to see my grandson and see my daughter. And then I went, in your words, fuck it. While I'm there, what's the point of just going for a week or a fortnight? I'm going to go and visit people that have been good to me when I was there last time. Because last time I visited some great schools. I go to the Sammy Russo's place, the Australian Wrestling Alliance in Sydney. And then there's the Aussie Queensland middleweight champion, Aussie Wolf. He's at the Queensland Wrestling Alliance. And then there's Lucille Broad, who's got a place. So I'm going visiting because they've invited me to some of their shows. And while I'm there, I'll be doing, in this country, I'm like the British and European commissioner these days, where I have a look at the shows and make sure everything's all right. And 1 or 2 people have asked me to do the same in Australia. But it'd be great to go there, see the family and see some old friends and just sit there and have a look and see what, let's say, I won't be obviously going in the ring. I can't be doing that, but I'd like to just give my points of views, what I think's right and wrong, because I have a wrestling school, as you probably know, in this country. And I just want to pass my knowledge on to these people that are running these schools and look at some of the talent. You never know, there might be somebody there that deserves a tryout. If possible, I can recommend people. But the main thing is, I just want to pass on the knowledge that I had passed to me from some great, great mentors and big, big names in the business with all the countries that I visited. And that's all it is, trying to put a little bit something back into the business that I love.
You know what? That's really great to hear, because it's good to hear that because I speak to a lot of people involved in wrestling and sometimes a lot of veterans as well. And sometimes I always I get the feeling sometimes there's almost like a bitterness for the business, like an underlining bitterness. But when I spoke to like yourself, when I was speaking to yourself and like a Bobby Blaze over in the US, uh, who's around the same, generation as yourself, he, just has this love and passion for the business, just like yourself, and just wanting to give back and see it, improve. Um, you know, Let me ask you this, like, as far as like veterans in the business that aren't prepared to give back, whether it's like, helping, lift someone's stock by doing a job for them or whatever it may be. What's your take on veterans that sort of like refuse to sort of help build younger talent?
Honest opinion,
Mhm.
the veterans that you refer to, they probably body's knackered that they can't do it.
Yeah.
And the mindset. I mean, listen, if you think it's all glitz and glamour and it's a great life, even the multi-mega stars that are on mega money, it's a hard life because you're up in the air, you're traveling, you've got to look the part, you've got to do this. But when I was, let's put it this way, on the road, I was wrestling 10 times a week sometimes because and for little money. I think you was just born to be a wrestler because the thing what I know pisses a lot of people off, the veterans. I speak to them. I mean, I speak with Johnny Saint, the man of 1,000 holes, and
Family.
he comes down to my gym frequently as a personal friend. Bulldog Colin Johnson, the original Bulldog. All these veterans, as you call them, they're still around and they still want to come to the gym. But you couldn't get into wrestling when I was a kid. Nowadays, you're getting little skinny kids that don't look the part, and it's a different era. Some of them are that skinny, the top rope's thicker than what they are. And they're flying around and they're doing this and doing that. But you mark my word, the veterans, they've got a soft spot for the business unless they fell out with the business. And don't forget, if they're married with families, the wives, girlfriends, they probably had 30, 40 years of the same shit. So it's time to retire. And it's only the big mega stars, that can have a life of luxury. There's not many that have a great life after finishing in the ring. But like I say, injuries is a big thing. And the way the business has gone or it's going, I think it upsets one or two of them. As I said before, you couldn't get into the wrestling business unless you was recommended, unless a family member was also a wrestler, or you came from a reputable amateur Olympic background. You couldn't just walk into a gym. Japan, they've got to do 1,000 squats, 1,000, not 10, 20. They've got to do 1,000 squats off without stopping. Well, they can stop. When I was in the with Carl Gotch and people like that in Japan, I went down to the dojo and there was people there, and there was an elderly wrestler, say, retired. He'd draw around the feet with some chalk, and he had one of them clickers, click, click, click. Yeah. And he used to say, right, okay, now you could stop, but you couldn't move off that mark. And they had to do 1,000 squats before they could come back to the gym to prove that they're dedicated.
Wow.
I've seen them stood on the feet shaking and then collapse. Wrestling was a very hard business, and to get in it was harder in our day.
Yeah. How, like you were trained by Billy Robinson, who's another phenomenal name out of the UK wrestling scene. How old were you when you met Billy Robinson, and like how after first meeting him, how soon were you sort of bought in to like start learning the business and start taking bumps and training?
Right. This is a one-off for you because I like you. Billy Robinson never ever taught anybody professional wrestling. Billy Robinson had a gym in Failsworth, and used to be an old dance studio called the Valley House. And I lived in Failsworth, and my dad was a builder, like I said, but my mother ran a hairdressing shop. And Billy Robinson's mother also had a hairdresser's shop half a mile down the road. And I came into wrestling, as you can see, I wear glasses.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually blind in one eye. Not many people knew that. And funny enough, Billy Robinson was blind in one eye. There's a coincidence.
Wow.
Now then, what happened when you're in the schoolyard with a pair of glasses on and you've got the plaster over the eye, the kids can be cruel.
Yeah.
And when I went to the infant school, it was Specky or Clarence the Lion, the cross-eyed lion, or Milky Bar Kid, you know, name calling.
Yeah.
And I had a short fuse, and I used to just clock the kids, basically. So my dad took me to Billy Robinson's gym to control my temper. And Billy Robinson taught Olympic amateur wrestling, catch as catch can, shoot wrestling. And if you ever mention professional wrestling in the gym, there was no ring. You just wrestled on mats, coconut mats.
Yeah.
There was no shower. There was a hose pipe. And if you didn't like you, it was a wooden hut. Or somebody tried to have a go, they used to ram them through the door and used to land in the Rochdale Canal. All these stories are true because I was there. And I was only 6 years old when I started wrestling.
Wow.
But Billy taught us the Olympic style,
Yeah.
shoot style. And when I was 17, I won the British Championships at Olympic wrestling. And so did all our team were good. And then it was a year, I forget what year it was, 70, the Munich Olympics. Well, British wrestling, there's some great amateur wrestlers now, but in them days, you're not in the same class as like the Russians, the Mongolians, and you understand what I mean? But it would have been nice to go. But they only sent 4 people, and it was politics. Anyway, we didn't go. And that's when I decided Jackie Robinson, who was Billy Robinson's cousin, he was a professional wrestler. Johnny Saint came down to the gym as well, and Colin Johnson and a few others. And I went to a show. And a little tip for all up-and-coming wannabe wrestlers, always take your gear with you. Because one wrestler didn't turn up, and the promoter said, "Do you want to do a match?" So I said, "No." I said, "I don't think I'm ready." So they put me on with a guy called Maurice Hunter, who could do a bit of amateur wrestling as well.
Yeah.
So I went on with him, and that was it. I got changed and went into the ring, and the rest is history. And I turned professional then.
So did you have any pro wrestling training prior to that first match, or were you just like...
No, I went down to a place called Wrighton Stadium where there were some pro wrestlers there.
Yeah.
And I took a few bumps, and I thought the ring was like a trampoline at first, you know, I thought, because I'm used to wrestling on the mats. But in my day, there was a lot of top, hard, professional wrestlers that could handle themselves. So my amateur wrestling came into it, and I'll be honest with you, perfectly honest with you, I thought, pardon me French, it was a load of bollocks, professional wrestling. Until that day that I went straight in and wrestled. And I did a few hip tosses, and I did a few this and a few amateur moves. And I was a bit light with the fella. And the next thing is stiffen up and he creamed me one. Bang, right on the nose. My second match, I was on with a great wrestler called Tony Charles.
Yeah.
And he was a fantastic wrestler. Once again, I was a substitute on the program. And because I'd come from Billy Robinson's gym, they was a bit frightened of me, and I was a lot younger than them. But Tony Charles, I swear not, I disappeared up my own arse and come out again the other side. He tied me in knots. And that's how I started in professional wrestling. I had many, many little jobs, like a driving instructor, a window cleaner, this, that, and the other. But I was only in the business for 6 months. And I got my first trip abroad to Mexico.
Really? So that was pretty that's pretty quick, like going in and like, were you smartened up to what like pro wrestling was before, like, you know, like going back to your first match? Was it like, were you guys given a finish, or was it just like, did you guys just figure it out what it is? Like, how did you, you know, really go from being like into the professional aspect of it? Like, was there any sort of Iggy given to you at that point?
No, I think it's because I came from a reputable wrestling school. And they thought, oh, this kid might be a bit tasty, might be all right. But when I went to Mexico, all I remembered about them was, well, they fly around everywhere. Well, I could fly around a little bit if I wanted to, but my style, I think they gave me a lot of respect. But when, another myth that everybody, you never spoke with each other. You didn't say, throw me there, do this, do that, do the other. Like Japan the first time I went, if you didn't watch their match the night before, if I was on with Super Tiger or Fujiwara or something like that, you had to watch their match the night before because you was on with him the next night in a different town. And you got to learn the throws and that, you know.
How did you find like going and wrestling in Mexico so early on, like in your career, like 6 months in, and going abroad to a country where English is not their first language? And like, I'm assuming you were working with guys that couldn't speak a word of English or very like little English.
Well, there was one or two that I went early doors. I asked to go to Gustl Kaiser, who was a German promoter. They did all the German tournaments there. And I went there in my car, so I didn't class that as, but I thought it was down the road. Jesus, it was like 3 days to get there. And there was a guy called, he was a legendary Mexican wrestler called Mil Mascaras.
Yeah.
Fantastic shape, fantastic body, never took the mask off. And he was a star straight away. And it was him that recommended me to go to Mexico. And I went, Mexico? Yeah. You pay your fare there, we'll pay your fare back. But you'll learn a lot. So Billy Robinson said, don't do it. He said, really? Go to Mexico, but not on my blessing, because Billy would not talk professional wrestling. And diverse of it. I've heard of people, Shayna Baszler and people like that, say they got taught by Billy Robinson. They did. Jack Gallagher, they did, but not professional. They got taught the catch and the Olympic wrestling. Catch is catch can. So that's a myth where Billy Robinson taught nobody professional wrestling. Now that that's out of the way, I said, why don't I do that, Billy? You pay your own fare. I said, well, my dad will pay it, and you'll get there. They'll use you. Then they won't book you again then when they've had enough of you. So you'll have to find your own way back home. I said, what do I do? He said, tell them that you'll find your own way back home after you've earned enough money. And to this very, very day, in 1977, I topped the bill at the Arena Mexico, and we sold it out with 33,000. Now, there was a good bill underneath me as well, you know, championships and big names. Now, there was a lot of poverty then, and there probably still is in Mexico. Yeah. So it wasn't a lot of money to get in, but 33,000. And I was on with a wrestler called Pedro Aguayo. He was a phenomenal worker. Now, in Mexico, you know, if you get beat, you have to take the mask off. Or you have your hair cut. Well, I beat him, and he ran out of the stadium. and the crowd went mad because he was the champion. But the heat that it generated, now what they don't know, a little secret, Pedro Aguayo was going to America the next day, so they all thought he fled the country because he got beaten. He didn't want his hair cutting, and they bought it big time. So I stayed there. I was on some fantastic, and I learned the style. But I slowed them down a little bit because I used to get a grip of them tight instead of bing, bang, 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 flying all over the place. So my style and their style, it gelled good. And I was only a young kid. I was like 18. I was flying through the ropes anyway. But the good thing is, has anybody seen Pedro Aguayo? And then it was on the news. Look who was seen at the airport yesterday, coming back to the country.
Pedro Aguayo.
Now they thought he'd fled. So we have another match. And they said, if I beat him this time, then I can have a go at the World Championship and the hair match, which they'd never done before. And when that match, I beat him again. So the championship and the hair match was on the line. Well, the thing is, 33,000 people, 1977.
Yeah. And
in them days, I don't know how many years ago that is, 30, 40 years ago, I got it was 998 English pounds, let's say £1,000, which at that time, for one match, you could buy a house with that.
Fuck.
But what happened? I lost the match. I didn't get the title, and they shaved all my hair off. And I went home the next day because I'd had enough now.
Yeah.
And then when I went back home, my fiancée at the time worked on the cruise ships, and she picked up a bug or something. So she was in the hospital having injections, antibiotics and that. So I went to see her, I just walked right past. She didn't recognise me. So
you had a fresh shave.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. But I was there 3 months. I should have only been there 3 weeks. But Japan.
But how?
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, how was that being like a young guy in 1977 going over and living in another country for 3 months, supposed to be there for 3 weeks, not having any support, like family, friends, anything like that. When you got over there, was it a bit of a culture shock? Were you overwhelmed by it at first?
When I got on the plane, I was overwhelmed. The only time I went on a plane is an hour with the family to go on holiday.
Yeah.
So when I see them jump, what happened? I went on what they call a student fair, where you go everywhere. And I went from Manchester to France. Stayed over in a hotel, included in the price, in France, Charles de Gaulle Airport. And then I went from France to Houston, Texas. Stayed over a night there. And then from Houston, Texas, I went to Mexico City. When I got off the plane at Mexico City, the doors opened and my throat, it burnt as though I was in a sauna. The heat was unbelievable. I go to get my bag, and next thing is, I've been told this guy'd meet me. Well, I'm just stood there, and I'll be honest with you, my ass was twitching. I'm thinking, who am I looking for?
Yeah.
And they didn't say a guy with a sombrero. They've all got it. So I just stood there, and then I looked round, and I actually thought, it can't be a rib this, they paid for the flight,
Yeah.
So as time went on, I just stood there, and I thought, right, I'm just going to wait until everybody's gone. And I'm stood there with this big bag and something. Hola! And he looked a wrestler. Nose had gone, cauliflower ears, an old chap. So I thought, oh, fuck you've come, because what would I have done? Next thing is, we get taxi. We go in a taxi, and I swear to you now, there was no doors on the taxi.
Really?
On my life. I don't have to tell lies. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, Piers. It showed me what life was all about. The poverty was off the charts. People begging and children with twisted limbs and stuff like that. Go to Acapulco, which we did on a Thursday when we had the night off. So you could go by the bus through the night to Acapulco while you used to wrestle.
Yeah.
But you could have the day off before the night. Or they'd fly you down, but you'd only just get there in time. And luchadors were like football players, or like your American football players, or, you know, cricket players. They're all stars. And it was overwhelming. I mean, if you were from a different country, the kids used to get plastic cups, and they'd piss in them. And as you're coming out of the dressing room, they'd be throwing them at you, whether they like you or not, because you're from a different country. And I'll tell you something else. Have you ever been close to somebody that's been shot?
No.
I have. 18, 19 years of age, talking to a guy, Mil Mascaras' father, who was a goldsmith. And he said, look, don't be carrying any money around with you. You know that you're a foreigner. And when you come into these places, because we didn't get back till 2, 3 o'clock at the night, you'd be on a bus with a load of chickens and a goat and all this lot. The springs of the seat up your ass and all that. All about living. And you respected what you had back home. But this guy, he said, I'm going to make you a gold bracelet. At least put it on your wrist at night or on your ankle, because otherwise you're going to rob you of your money. Because that's what they were like. It was all full of drugs, marijuana. Because don't forget, we weren't getting back in till 2, 3 o'clock. And they were like 24, so all the prostitutes were there, all the junkies were there. And as he was giving me this gold bracelet, he said, take it back to England and get it melted down. You'll get twice as much money for it. Because gold at the time, Mexican gold was a different carat or whatever. Anyway, I did it. And as he's giving it me, not a lot of people know this, but it's true. This guy comes up, only a teenager, full of blood and everything, and he's got time babbling on. In other words, give me the bracelet. And he pulls a gun out. Now then, I've got to stress. He pulls a gun out. I'm just about to eat my chicken. And I said, now you can mess about with me drink. You can mess about with whatever you want. But don't fuck me about when I'm having my food, because that's my pet. I have to have food, mate. It's fuel.
Yeah.
And I just saw this gun. And Mil Mascaras' father just went, Marty, don't worry. He says, he babbled on in Mexican, I've got one better than this one, bigger. He put his hand in his pocket, he pulls the gun out and goes, pop, pop, shoots him.
What the fuck?
Honestly, as true as I'm talking to you now. But in Mexico, you're allowed to carry a gun for protection.
Sure.
So they're not like proper bullets, you know, like a fun fair, them little lead bullets thing. Them lead pellets. Like a BB gun. You're allowed to carry them.
Yeah.
And what they have on the floor, they've got yellow lines on the floor. And if the police come, they go, fire proper bullets in the air, and then they shower the pavement. You have to stand behind this yellow line. Anyway, I just froze and shit myself. Thought I'm going to get one phone call to my mum. We got in the van, the police van, me and this fella. Now, Mil Mascaras' dad was a very big name.
Yeah.
And he had plenty of money. The law over there, the guilty person is the one that comes off worst. No law, no court. So we went to the prison. They brought this fella in. They put him on a slab. They just cut in there, took the bullet out, sorted him out. Off he went. And then Milner Scarce's father, them days, he paid 40 pesos, dollars, or whatever it was, Mexican pesos, and we just walked out. But lived with me for the rest of my life.
Jeez. Yeah, well, I think Mexico is one of those countries that's like, if you've got money, you can easily get yourself out of a lot of situations. And especially back then, you know what I mean? Like where like the 70s where corruption and stuff really sort of, I think was probably going on in a lot of, those, not, I don't want to say it's a third world country, but close to it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a beautiful city, culture-wise, the Aztecs and things like that. And when you sat on the beach, seeing all the beautiful women and all the sea and the dolphins, but when you turn that way, no. But the wrestling, there was a move that everybody does now, getting back to wrestling.
Yeah.
The suicide dive, they call it, where everybody dives through the ropes.
Yeah.
And the one where you go on top of the turnbuckle and you do a somersault and land on your opponent.
Yep.
I did that. I was the first one to come back to the UK to do the suicide dive.
How was it taken?
I did it over there.
I'll
just tell you, I did it over there. I thought, I'm going to take that back. When I went on top of the turnbuckle, right, I just said to this guy I was on with, I'll never forget it. I slammed him. I said, stay there. I said, stop there. And he watched me go. And I did the somersault, and he sold it because the way of landing on the body, you know what I mean? But the suicide dive, I was on with a guy called Mark Rollerball Rocco. And if you go on YouTube, it's on there. Now, Mark Rollerball Rocco, right, me and him had a lot of feud between us. It was one of them matches that gelled that the people wanted to see. We knocked shit out of each other. You gave as good as you got with Mark. He could snapmare you and he's going to boot you in the back. And he'd boot you in the back and your teeth would probably land on the front row. It was one of them. But you could give it him back. And the thing is, he looked at me. He jumped in the ring and he tried doing it. And you know something?
What's that?
The next day in England, we had loads of shows. Not just one show here, there, and ever. There's probably 10, 15 shows each day in the UK in them days. Everybody were doing it. So nothing's sacred in this business. If somebody sees something that's different, and that's the word I use at my wrestling school, be different from everybody else. If you can be an Andre the Giant, great. If you've got 3 heads, great. Be different. And that's it.
I think that's the thing. Like in pro wrestling, I think everything's been recycled so many times over that when as a fan, when I watch wrestling and I see something new that I haven't seen in wrestling before, that always piques my interest, no matter what type of gimmick or what type of move it is. If it's something that I haven't seen before and it's something unique, good, bad, or indifferent, it piques my interest. I want to see it more. I'll go, okay, that's cool. That's, you know what I mean? Like, okay, sometimes, you got to throw shit on the wall and see what sticks. But like for the majority of the part, I appreciate when people do try and go outside of left field with certain things. You mentioned Andre the Giant. I heard you actually teamed with him
several times.
How did you find teaming with Andre the Giant? What was he like?
As a man or a giant, what he was a hell of a nice guy with me. I don't know why he took to me. There was some big names on the tour, Jake the Snake Roberts and Nikolai Volkov. There was Bob Backlund. In fact, I was in Japan and they asked me would I like to stay another week, which wasn't heard of. And I thought, why? There's a big match coming. He said, it's the first time that we've got the WWE. How was it WWF then? I can't remember, ERF. He says, and they're going to be coming to Japan. So we need some guys like yourself that can wrestle. some of our younger guys. I said, yeah, it'd be an honour to. So I stayed the next week. And like I say, Bob Bocklund, there was Andrew the Giant, who was already there anyway. Bob Bocklund, who was a big name. Nikolai Volkov, Chief J. Strongbow, Tony Gurria, and Vince McMahon's father was the representative. And one of the biggest mistakes they ever did, Vince McMahon's father said, would I like to go to America? I said, no, I'm not into all that bullshit.
Fuck. Excuse my French.
Honestly,
Jeez.
I did.
Oh, wow.
Over a beer with Andre, I said, because in them days, you had your old Colgans, you had all that lot, but it was more, do you know what I mean? Razzmatazzi, where our wrestling in Japan, that style suited me. Like shoot wrestling, catch as catch can. Times change. And you just hit on something. Listen, wrestling is like fashion. It'll come round again.
Yeah.
The miniskirts and the boob tops and all that are going to be coming back. And in wrestling, if you look at the, well, I know it's froze for a little bit, the NXT UK brand and the NXT UK in America. I'm not interested in what's happened with Vince McMahon. I've got my own ideas. I'll keep to myself. But Triple H and people like that, they're being seen to be trying to get sportsmen. People have got other sports involved, which is not going to work. It's a breed. You've got to be, wrestling's got to be in your blood, right?
100%.
You're born to be a wrestler half the time. Now then, what's going to happen? NXT UK, which I've got a soft spot for, it's depicting two competitors having a go at each other. They get stuck in. You know, they look the part, some of them, or most of them do, and it's entertaining the crowd. Yes, it is. But they work bloody hard, them people, especially the girls as well. And I think it's changing. Wrestling's changing back to the style that we used to do on the World of Sport because they've tried everything else. You know what I mean? So what's left? Let's go.
I think as well, like, you know, you mentioned NXT UK. When they launched that NXT UK brand, they really, you know, I think showcased what was, you know, highlighting the UK scene. And it was like, I hadn't seen much of the UK scene at the time. I saw that and I'm just like, holy shit, where did all this talent come from? And why are we only just seeing them now? And so, and you know what? I think it gave a platform for a lot of the UK talent to really sort of, you know, launch their careers, you know, within WWE. And we've started to see, you know, some of the performers, you know, that have come through the NXT UK go over to NXT America now, you know, on the main roster. So there's definitely been stars that they've been able to get there.
Yeah, there is. And the thing is, they're wrestling. You know, some of the American, and I'm not, they'll get on me back for saying this. Some of the American wrestlers, not all of them, they all look the part, they do this and they're great for America. Now, the Americans are getting a bit fed. They like doing everything times 10, don't they, the American people? It's just the way they are. In their mind, they're the best there is. And everything's dramatized and this and that. There's a lot of them American wrestlers that can't wrestle, but they can speak on the mic and they can do somersaults and do stuff. The people that I like, which I normally always get, Shawn Michaels, right? Randy Orton, people like that. I was very fortunate to wrestle Bob Orton, Randy's father, in Calgary. The thing is, if I said to you, how many moves does Shawn Michaels and how many, The Rock, how many moves does he have? Randy Orton, how many moves has he got?
1.
I bet you can't name me 3.
Randy Orton, the DDT on the ropes, the punt kick, and his finish, the RKO.
Yeah, right. Shawn Michaels, when he taps his foot on the floor, you know the super kick's coming.
Yeah.
But they don't do 100-mile-an-hour high spots, combinations, boom, 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 in and out the ring. You know, it's just what I teach pro wrestling, and I'm off the mark a little bit these days. But I try and visualize that I'm sat on the front row watching. Oh, he never touched him. Oh, he slapped his leg before he kicked him. Well, I don't have any of that. I won't have it.
I mean, it's working crisp, and you see like certain performers out there, like when you're watching shows. And I'm not a trained wrestler, so I find it hard for me to really comment, because it's like, how can I comment on certain things? But I have an opinion on things. And when I see something, and it's like, for me who hasn't been trained, and I can go, whoa, that was a bit off, or what the fuck, you know what I mean? That to me is like, okay, if I can pick that out and I haven't been trained, like, you know what I mean? Like, clearly there's something that's not working there.
Well, don't think I'm knocking the business with this. It's just what I see. When somebody goes on top of the corner post, say tag teams, why do 8 people all hug each other looking at this guy up there, waiting for him to come off? If I was a promoter, I'd say, when they come off, do a back somersault or do a dive across, and you all catch him or her. Move out of the way.
Do something different.
Right, it's different.
Yeah. But as well, because it makes sense, because why would you sit there and look and then just not move, right?
Exactly. But if I go on top of the corner post, I see some people, I can do it. I get on top sometimes and I drop kick somebody. The guy I've drop kicked in our day would sell it for you. What do they do nowadays? As soon as he drop kicked him, he's knocked him to the floor. The crowd have gone, wow. He goes and picks him up.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Take the time, slow it down, let the crowd process.
All I'm trying to say is, I know I'm an old footy buddy, but let's get back to wrestling. What they do in America and what they do here, there, and everywhere, but just be different a little bit. And the thing is, the girl talent doing a great, great job. Some of the girls' matches are better than the guys' matches, which is nothing wrong with that, because some of them girls will knock the shit out of you. But if they've all been trained right, it's a great business to be in.
So, touching base on NXT UK, like I was reading, like, that you were mentoring, some of the talent on the roster there. Were you ever officially a coach with NXT UK or a trainer, or was there ever a discussion to bring you in as the coach to NXT UK?
It's a bit of a sore point for me. As you know, they opened a performance centre in the UK, which is just outside London. And NXT UK was the brainchild of William Regal and Triple H. They started that off.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say, I think there's been about 12 or 14 people that have gone through my gym that made it on NXT or had tryouts. Many of the girls have. 1, they look the part. 2, they can do it. And 1 or 2, it's not what I like, it's what I see. If I think there's potential there, I know what they're looking for. It's up to them how they do it, the tryouts. But it's also down to the people, can they do anything with this person? But as far as the basics are concerned, and getting them the tryouts, yeah. I mean, at the moment, we're buzzing at the gym because, Ridge Holland?
Yep.
Who's doing the Battling Brutes gimmick? The big guy, Ridge Holland, he's one of my guys.
Really?
And Yeah, he topped the bill last night on SmackDown.
He did.
But you've only got to look at him.
He looks the part, though. Like, he looks like this big, intimidating, psychotic, like, dude. But,
going back to what you said, I didn't answer. Sorry.
No, it's
okay. I was going to get invited to do a guest appearance at the Performance Centre, which they do now and again.
Yeah.
And my ambition was, obviously, it'd be great to be a trainer there. But with this speaking out movement, somebody put a bit of shit in for me and told some lies. I don't want to dwell on it because somebody will come on and say, you did say this and you did say that. Well, I'm just telling you, on my daughter's life, I never said what they said I said about somebody's colour and this, that, and the other. And it just pisses me off, that social media like. Anyway, going back to what you said, and then all of a sudden, you've got to bear in mind, you had William Regal there, you've got a guy called Johnny Moss there, you had Robbie Brookside there, you had Johnny Saint there, Norman Smiley, James Mason, all great coaches. And I thought to myself, and Johnny Saint, like I say, is very close to me. I had a word with Johnny. They have things like script writers and they've got this and they've got that and promos and all that. Well, we never did all them. You know what I mean? So as far as the wrestling side of it, I was down to go as a guest trainer. And I just thought that was a bit of a thank you from William Regal and a bit of a job interview, really. If I was any good, I might have stayed there. But as you know, them names I've just mentioned now, they're all top coaches, and a lot of them people on that's on NXT UK, especially a lot of the girls, I recommended them. But it's just in a transition period at the moment. It's well known that William Regal left WWE, went to AEW. So that was a comfort, And I must say that one or two people, I've weighed it up. I'm not stupid. Oh, I'll go to Marty's gym, train with him a little bit. He's friends with William Regal. If he or she's any good, I might get a tryout. It's funny, since William Regal's left, the so-called talent don't want to come to your gym anymore. So I just thought you were using me a little bit to. I can't. It's dead easy. Piers, you can fill the application form in. Tell them what your background is. Send some pictures in. Tell them what you do, and you might get a job. It's simple as that. If they like what they see or what they hear and what you do, and they think, they've already had a one-legged wrestler, haven't
they? Absolutely. Yeah, they have Zach Gowen.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But going back to Andre the Giant, there's people like that cropping up all. No, there'll never be another Andre the Giant. I'll tell you that now. I asked this question. I'm going to ask you, what's the biggest moment in American wrestling that stands out in your mind? What you've seen? High spot or incident that happened?
Oh, it just depends. I think probably one of the biggest moments, because it was so, of a spectacular moment for that time would have been when Mick Foley came off the steel cage in '98. I think that's one of the most iconic things.
Yeah, that's in the top five. That's in the top five of the answers. You know what number one is?
What's that?
When Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Number two, when the ring collapsed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff that's different. Stuff that's not,
stuff that hasn't been done before, like stuff that you haven't seen, that go on.
Yeah, but listen, I'd love to be there and have the opportunity to wrestle Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Shawn Michaels. I've been on with Bret Hart and Dynamite Kids and all them guys. Great, great workers. But to have go on with them guys. Little effort, maximum heat. It was great.
Yeah. Just to go back, like you mentioned, William Regal, and we touched on, you training him. William Regal, like he started training at a young age as a teenager. When he came in, like how did you do you remember like him coming in and starting his training journey with you? Like how did that sort of come about?
Oh, I remember it like yesterday, but the problem was William Regal, whose name was Steve Regal, he lived in Blackpool, which is like the mini Las Vegas,
Yeah.
Well, it is in the UK. It's where all the artists go, and deep down, he loved comedy, and he did this. And I saw this tall, slim, good-looking lad, and I just felt he wasn't being used right, because we had a guy called Big Daddy over here. It was a phenomenal name, nice guy, whatever. And his promoter brother, he was a kid's favourite, and he packed Wembley 3 times, and he was marketed for what he did,
Yeah.
But he always, in tag matches, he always had the skinny kid that had the shit knocked out of him, and then he did the big comeback. And that's where I saw William Regal. And I thought, this kid's being wasted. Now, William Regal, from me, is like 2 hours away. Only an hour in a car, but on a bus. And he used to come on the bus to my family had an equestrian centre. And we used to train in the ring, in the barn, with all the chickens and all of it. It was like something out of the movie, Rocky film.
Yeah, yeah.
And he got better and better. And then 1 or 2 other promoters started using him as, Stephen Regal, William Regal. And then there was some good wrestlers then. Dave Taylor and William Regal had a go at Fit Finlay, Rocco and Johnny Set. There's some great wrestlers. And he fitted into that mold good. Now, as far as me training him, yes, he came down to the gym. Yes, I passed a bit of knowledge on. Yes, but he did what he wanted to do. He had it in his head that he was going to America. Whether he's a comedian, an entertainer, wrestler, whatever, he was going to go. He wanted to make it for himself. And that's exactly what he did. He went on, that's on YouTube, his first ever wrestling match. He was on with me on TV. The promoter put us on together, and I thought, well, I was world champion at the time. And the next thing, I thought, I'm on with, yeah, great. I'll make him look good. And then we came up with a gimmick that I gave him a false start. So he had to get 1 fall, I had to get 2.
And like how, in that first match with him, did you know, holy shit, like this kid's got something special?
Well, you knew he had something special the way he dressed himself, because his gear was good. He had blondish hair, and, I'm not on the other shelf, but he was a good-looking lad. But the thing is, you see, in England, it's very, very, in them days, there were shows all over the place for different promoters. And where he was from up there, he invested in himself. He had some nice gear. Well, a lot of them didn't. That's another thing. I say to my students, look at Charlotte Flair when she walks down that ramp. Look at Ric Flair. Right?
Yeah. They look $1 million.
As soon as you see them, you know they've invested in themselves. Over here, sometimes, all they've got on is a baseball cap and a lollipop and a string vest. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a business that you've got to put 120% into it. And it's all right saying you look at the part. I've never lifted a weight in my life. But stamina, I could go. It's another myth that everybody says. They talk to each other. Now, I'm talking a lot because you let me speak. The thing is, in our day, if we got caught speaking with each other on camera, you got sacked.
So was that more like you had to just like know what's going on with the match? Like, was like, how would you communicate the next spot? Like, was it just like you had?
Well,
to
if I tell you that, right? If I tell you that, you're going to spoil it for you the rest of your life. And I'll tell you why. Because it's what I teach, right?
Yeah.
It is body language. How I grab your head, how I grab your arm. But let me ask you something. Do you walk?
Yeah.
Do you go for walks?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You go for a walk for an hour and tell me how you feel. Or do 12 5-minute rounds, which is an hour, throwing somebody around. And you don't talk to them. How does that work out?
That's
so
pretty
all the myths that everybody thinks, they all talk to each other and they all do this, they all do that. When two workers are in there working an arm and one's selling it and one's kicking him and one's telling a story and one's doing this, that's how you get through to it. And that's what I teach. Or that's what I advise. And that's when I go to, I'll just sit there. When I go to Sydney or somewhere like that, I'll just sit there. And Sammy will say, what was your views on that? And I'll say, very good or shite. I tell him, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Well, I've seen it on telly. Well, he does it, so I want to do it. It doesn't work like that. And that's the beauty about professional wrestling.
Do you see that, like, with a lot of like this generation or the younger generation coming up, where they're more focused on like reenacting what they've seen the current lot of stars doing on AEW or WWE? You know, like, how does the current crop of people coming up, like, is this their mentality that you're seeing when they first step into a training school?
Well, I don't teach anybody to do somersaults off top of the ropes, and if they get confidence and they want to do that, see what they do, or what people think we do. We get a notepad and we write it all down, what he wants to do or she wants to do, and we practice it in the gym. Total load of bollocks. A top professional, male or female, I can get on the phone to them and say, right, such and such your body, you're in London tonight. And what people don't realise, we didn't go on jets and flights. We had to drive 5 hours down there and then find out who you was wrestling. Then you'd go and do a championship, right?
Yeah.
Then you'd drive back. Then you'd start at the meat market because you needed another job to support your wife and kids. Then you'd be somewhere else in the country going by car all the time. Yes, we did travel together sometimes, right? Japan, you've got to watch the match, what the ice spot they did the day before. But it mystifies me. People will say in the changing rooms, I'll do this, I'll do that, and it never works out. I went once to a place in Newcastle. I spoke to these two lovely girls. I have a lot of respect for them. And the show started at 7 o'clock, and they was discussing the match in the background. I'll do this, you do that. I'll do this, you do that. That was at 5 o'clock. They were still talking at 7:15, and they was on first. And guess what? They was only doing 4 minutes.
And like, do you think the problem is like, do you have the problem with over planning and planning spots where it's like, just go out there, feel the crowd, feel it out, and just, you know, work in the ring?
Difficult, because I personally, get me in trouble this, I think a lot of people are coming into the business, especially on the indie scenes, that are not ready for the business.
How so?
Because they've come in the wrong way. They haven't had any scurfing about on the mats. They don't give you respect. They don't do this. They just want to get in and look after themselves. In my day, if he was taking too much, he got smacked. But it's totally different. So I don't think I'm,
No.
I think it's coming back into me. But I'll give you, for your listeners, right? And if you call me a liar, right, tell me to my face. And what it was,
Absolutely.
I wrestled Owen Hart on World of Sport television. And it's on YouTube. And ask anybody who's watching it, if anybody can go on YouTube and put Marty Jones Wrestling versus Owen Hart. And the true story was, and I get emotional with Owen because he would have been a he was a fantastic wrestler, awesome talent.
Yeah.
I wrestled him 2.5 years prior to him coming to England. And it was at St. George's Hall, Bradford, in Yorkshire. TV show. Well, they did 6 matches when he was on TV. Now, if he was on match number 2, they did 1, 2, and 3. That was for one Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
4, 5, and 6 was for the following Saturday afternoon. At this time, British wrestling used to attract 15 million viewers every Saturday at 4 o'clock on the sports day, Saturday. Now, I should have been on second, top of the bill in a championship with Owen Hart. He hasn't arrived. Delay at London Airport, getting into Manchester Airport. He's on his way. He's on his way. He's on his way. Now, as far as planning a world championship, I hadn't wrestled Owen prior 2.5 years ago. This is the next time I see him. That was in Calgary, and he comes in. I kid you not, he put his gear on in the car, in the taxi from Manchester Airport. He sent a taxi for him. He put his gear on in the car. He got to the changing room, shook hands with everybody, saw me, Mary, fucking music's playing, entrance music. And we went on and we stormed them. And nobody said to me, you win, I win, you do this, you do that. It was the same match I did 2.5 years ago in Calgary, and we brought the house down. But in them days, there was a guy called Kent Walton, who was like yourself, good at speaking. And he said one thing, he was the voice of wrestling. Every Saturday, Kent Walton used to talk about it. If Kent Walton was on the bill, they knew it was a TV show. He was the biggest draw ever, right?
Because they knew they were going to be on TV in the crowd, right? That's
the
why
crowd.
people went.
The crowd know that it can get on TV.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he said this is the best match I've commentated on for many, many a year. And what he said made me, because if he said, right, watch out in round 4, Marty Jones unscrews his leg and he hits the guy over the head with it, the wrestling punters would fucking believe him. Because he was the voice of the wrestling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I swear
he's sort
to
of
you,
like they're telling the story of what's
we had a
going
match
on.
there that I showed me to you, and I'm proud of the match because it's on YouTube. Marty Jones versus Owen Hart. And we never said a word. And if you do, there's an art to that. People aren't stupid.
No.
But if you've got the gift of being a great grafter, and I don't have to tell you who great grafters are. Do you know, this is inside information. Guess who, like everybody in America, loves to work with?
Who's that?
The Miz.
Yeah, because he knows how to sell a fucking storyline, right?
Because he's safe as houses. He does limited stuff, right? And all he's interested in is having a good match.
Yeah.
But them guys, your Ric Flairs and people like that, you know what I mean?
Well, you look at someone like The Miz, right? And like he's had a very long career. Longevity has been almost uninterrupted. Hardly any injuries, if any major injuries have occurred. Hasn't really been known to hurt other people. And you know what? Did his time, you know what I mean? Like as a young guy coming up, being kicked out of the locker room, did his time, shut his mouth, got invited back into the locker room by The Undertaker, who was pretty much the highest locker room leader of all time in WWE. So that's someone who really took a lot of respect for the business to get where they are, but also is smart to see like, okay, I don't need to do 1,000 things. I don't need to do like moves that are going to risk. I don't need to risk injury. I'm getting heat or I'm getting over by words or actions or like psychology in matches.
Yeah. But like I say, you still got that crowd to entertain. I mean, we've just had, I haven't seen him for a long, long time. The last time I saw him was when he was in Manchester. He's Scottish, as you know, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at him. He looks the part, you know, and it's not his gimmick. It's just the way he is from Scotland. And he's got to the top after a long slog. And we just had the battle at the castle in Wales. In other words, it was our little WrestleMania. And it was phenomenal. They sold it out, 70-odd thousand people, you know, which for like a one-off show. And they came from all over the place. And it wouldn't surprise me if the UK is going to have a WrestleMania soon.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, they did SummerSlam like in the 90s, right? So
yeah,
you know, like I feel like it's been a long time, and I don't know if they'll do a Mania though, because that's kind of like a big, like I think WrestleMania is kind of like I don't know, it'd be pretty big to take it out of the US.
Well, you know, I think, and it's only my opinion. It's nothing that I know. If I knew, I'd tell you, because I think this start of defreezing at the moment, NXT UK, and they're going to open up an NXT Europe. Now, they've released most of all the roster. That's an American thing, isn't it? Roster. We say changing room. But anyway. And the ones that they thought they could do business with have already gone to, you know, Tyler Bates and people like that have already gone to America working for NXT. But this NXT Europe, it's going to be, they'll go to France and they'll get a few of the French people and workers on the bill, which they should do. There's some great female talent. Myla Smith there, Olympic wrestler. She knows what it's all about. You can get to Italy and they'll have a few Italians on. Ireland, no matter who they put on, they're doing very great, good business. You know, there's Myla Grace, a female talent that comes from my gym. Tucker, who in my opinion, Irish kid, he's phenomenal shape. He's carrying an injury at the moment and get well soon, Tucker. He got released far, far too soon from NXT UK. But the business in Ireland is booming.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same here in Australia. Like business is booming. Like pro wrestling, I think, is you know, in a peak. And I think like wrestling always goes in like these peaks and troughs over like every 10 or 15 years. Like it goes from being up here and then it sort of has like a downfall in popularity. I think mainstream wrestling. So I think like if WWE and AEW is bad, then I think wrestling has a downfall. But when it's like good and there's competitiveness about it, you know, I think
that's the word. You've just hit the word for it. Sorry to interrupt. You said competitiveness. They're getting back to it, depicting two people competing. As though there's a bit of belief in that he doesn't like him or she doesn't like her.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, look at Roman Reigns. Right? How many days has he been champion?
2 years.
Maybe more, I don't know.
Yeah, just over, I think.
But who's going to come along? Who's going to come along and beat him?
I think Cody. That's who they would book it to. Like from my understanding, I thought they were going to give Cody like a Triple H style run, similar to
Yeah.
like when Triple H had
Well,
him.
there's sense in that. But I tell you something, Cody, fingers crossed. I hope he can wrestle again because that injury that he had.
That was nasty.
Now
That
we're
was
going back
nasty.
to it again. Wrestlers don't get hurt. Have a word with Cody Rhodes, and don't say it got bodged up and something happened. It happens.
Yeah, I
That's what we're
mean,
in the business.
you wrestle hurt, you wrestle, injuries happen and injuries occur, and that's where it's like, oh, when I hear people say, when I hear non-wrestling fans go, oh, that fake wrestling, and even like to when I hear someone say that and like they go, oh, how's that? I'm like, hey man, you don't call it that. And I go, especially around like if I have people that I'm friends with in the wrestling business at my house or around other people that aren't in the wrestling business or aren't fans of it, I'm always like giving the Iggy to my non-wrestling fans. Hey, don't drop things like that because that's really, really offensive. And you know what I mean? You may get it, you may have an issue with this person if you start saying shit like that. So just keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to ask, and you mentioned, wrestling Owen in Calgary. Like, what was it like wrestling for Stu Hart, like over in Calgary wrestling? Like, how long were you over there for?
I forgot, to be honest, but I was there a couple of times. But what was it like? It was an honour to wrestle for the arts, Yeah. I mean, the legendary and the dungeon and the house and the times that we had there and wrestling guys. And before I got there, Dynamite Kid was just starting there, and they had some heat with Bret Hart and Owen, all the Hart family, Bruce and Jim Neidhart and Natalia and all them. They're all good to me, and they had some big names. And I was busy. We went on the loop, which is a hell of a journey, wrestling. And once again, it was like a learning curve for me, being away from home and Mexico and then Canada. And I mean, it was from one extreme of the heat to the freezing -40 and all that. But no, I enjoyed working for the Hearts and Stu. And listen, they're a wrestling family. And that's what it's all about. They take passion and pride in what they're doing. I mean, Bret, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think that what, like, Stu Hart's sort of style of wrestling, I can see would be very similar to what your sort of style of wrestling after speaking to you. You know what I mean? Like that real hard nose shoot, catch as catch can. But yeah, you were saying about Bret.
Yeah, Bret and all them are awesome talents, and they got what they deserved in the WWF, I think it was then. They had good runs. But no, they gave me a lot of respect, and I respect all the Hearts, It's when you mention Canadian wrestling,
Stampede.
that's the first name that comes into mind, I'm grateful for all the promoters, to be honest. I hadn't had a bad word for any of them. The only thing there is, I know there's probably a market for it, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't like these dark matches where fluorescent tubes are in and barbed wire and all that.
Death matches.
Yeah. I just don't want it. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. If you've got to scoop down to that to try and get some heat, yeah, not for me. But that's me because I'm old-fashioned. I'm an old man. Bollocks to it. I just don't like it.
Hey, look, wrestling's subjective. And what some people like, other people might not like. And that's okay. I always say professional wrestling is kind of like if you're going to go to a pro wrestling show, you want it to be like a buffet. There might be a heavyweight match, a tag team match, a spot fest match, or high flying match. Hardcore, little bit, lucha libre, because there's always going to be something for somebody, right? Because wrestling is so subjective.
Yes, but my theory, when they're doing these dark matches, right, it's just, I saw one last week, I'm not going to mention the names, and it was one of the best shows I'd seen for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden, I watched all the matches, a lot of high flying and some great, great talent. And then all of a sudden, these two guys came on and did a dart match. And I was embarrassed. Honestly, I was embarrassed. And I don't even know the names. There's two American kids on the bill. But because of my style, the way I've been working, how can you hit somebody with a fluorescent tube? Okay? You break the tube over your opponent's head. He's bleeding. The next thing you get to another fluorescent tube and hits yourself on the head.
Yeah, that's not telling your story. That's just giving away your gimmick, meaning it doesn't
No, but it's
hurt
just,
that.
I mean, they did some horrendous stuff, but the actual work, the kicking and the punching, it was shit. And I hope he's listening, because I felt if I was fit and able, you know, I was with some guests there, and there's a young lad called Nick Wayne at the moment, who's the child of Buddy Wayne and his lovely wife. They were guests on the show. I'm giving the show away now, but it doesn't matter. But I'm sat with his mother,
yeah.
And it was embarrassing because I'm saying how good the show was, British wrestling. But what it is, down London, for arguing's sake, or up and down the country, they're doing these dark matches, and the student culture I've seen to no chairs. You just go in, stand up, get a bottle of beer, and watch all these dark matches. And they're charging stupid, horrific money. So who's the idiot? Who's making the money?
Not the workers.
Right? Now, if we go on, Steve Gray, Johnny Saint, Big Daddy, Giant Aces, Marty Jones, Rollerball Rocco, Regal and Dave Taylor. No, it's boring shit. It's crap. It's shit. But it's just, that's the beauty about professional wrestling. Horses for courses, but it's not for me.
Yeah, look, you know, there's certain deathmatch wrestling like I can sit there and I can get into and I can watch. You know, I think when I was younger and probably less educated about pro wrestling, I probably, you know, would sit there and watch everything and anything and just soak it up and be like, yeah, I love all this deathmatch wrestling. But like now when I watch it and I understand a little bit better, like the psychology, the work and stuff like that, like I think if you can have like, I've seen two good, like amazing professional wrestlers go in and have a death match where it's like they're having a great wrestling match, but incorporating the gimmicks where it's like they're not making every spot about the gimmick or about stuff, but when they use the gimmicks, they make it mean something. Or they have a match which is like, this is the big blow off, because I feel like if you could go and like you have a feud that's so hot, the only way to have a blow off match is to have these unlimited amount of like ridiculous weapons and just destroy each other with it. That makes sense in some degree as well. So it kind of like builds that suspense. But I can understand, you know, like just walking around like, and I've seen some death matches where guys are literally walking around gigging themselves like that without even trying, you know what I mean? And again, you know, wrestling's an illusion. It's almost like magic. You know what I mean? There's certain things you've got to be able to, you know, protect.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if for arguing's sake, there was a chain match or a ladder match back in my day, or a cage match, I'll let you into a little secret. If the Americans did it 1 week, me and Rollerball Rocco, me and Finlay, me and Dinah Collins did it the week after in England. Not many people know this. I did a cage match where I nearly lost my arm.
Really?
You can't see it. You can probably just see it there. From here, all the way along there, I got impaled on the chair, on the cage, and I had 230 stitches inside and outside to save my arm.
Jesus.
right?
How long into your career was that?
Well, I'd be about 26, 7, 8. So easy done. But it wasn't a proper cage. It was just like metal that you see the side of the motorway.
Yeah.
You know, the big gates type of thing. And the idea was to get... Anyway, I got that much. Now, I get the ladder matches. I get that where two people have had a feud with each other. You know, I'd be on with Finlay. The promoter wouldn't tell me to win or lose. Leave it to you.
Yeah.
And me and Finlay used to knock shit out of each other. Right? And if we felt it was better that I won, but 9 times out of 10, it was better Finlay winning because I was the champion, so we could get another match out of it. Everybody's happy, the crowd's happy, the promoter's happy. That's business.
Yeah. Because then
you've got script writers doing all that now, whether they're right or wrong. My biggest pet hate at the moment, another one, is why is it everybody's running in each other's matches?
You mean doing like run-ins and shit? Like,
yeah, all the time. It's all right doing it once if they're getting a bit of heat with somebody, right? I watched the Australian girl, who I think, by the way, has got hell of a physique on her shoulders are like that, Rhea Ripley. Yeah.
Oh yeah, amazing.
I believe she's awesome in the gym as well. Great performer on her own. I get the gimmick with Priest and all that, and the handle that they've got with Mysterio and his son, pretty good. But they're all together. You know what I mean? It'd be 3 matches at first, I think. But they're all getting involved with each other's match. I don't like Finn Balor as a heel. I think he's a fantastic babyface. But that's only my opinion, which I'm entitled to.
I agree with you. I think Balor's probably a better babyface than he is a heel.
Well, he might be saying something, you know, like... The good thing is we're on our toes all the time, right? But even like you say, your death matches, in our day, we used to have 5 matches, to be honest. We used to have somebody who did a nice hard heavyweight wrestling match. Then we'd have a Johnny Saint flying around match. Then we'd have the top of the bill, whoever drew the crowd in. And then you'd have a comedy match at the end to send them all home happy.
Again, the wrestling buffet.
That's right. And that's what the great is this business. And nobody can tell me, right, that this is one of the best businesses in the world. If you earn money at it nowadays, you're doing very, very well. The only way your face must fit, you must get in there. When this NXT Europe comes back, sorry about that, somebody rang me. But that's the beauty about the business, isn't it? What's next? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what wouldn't surprise me? They have this fallout with AEW and WWE. And they might have a mega WrestleMania where 5, 6, 7 people from WWE go and challenge AEW. Because you don't know.
Well, now Vince is gone. It's definitely possible, but I just don't think that. Like, I don't know.
I'm talking hypothetically because you don't know what's going to happen next. But I do know that Triple H is bringing some of the talent back that Vince got rid of. I think it needed new ideas. It needs this. And I think Triple H, along with Shawn Michaels and a few others, they look the part, and the wrestlers, and, you know, they're going in the right direction anyway.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think they're definitely, you know, on the right path of, you know, building a better product, to be honest. So,
yeah. Well, can I just say now then, I think we've been on a while, and I've really enjoyed it. As you can tell, I can talk for hours. But the thing is, I am trying my best to get to Australia. the good thing is the tickets are booked, and I'll be visiting a few of my friends over there, and I'm just going to sit there and watch. And if any of the wrestlers, spectators, anybody wants to ask any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. And I would like to pass my knowledge on. If I see something that is good, I'll tell them. If I think it's bad, I'll tell them. It's up to them whether they take because advice it's valuable, you know.
Yeah,
no, and obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing my grandson and my daughter. She's at the sunny coast up there, and I will be visiting Sydney. I've got some friends in Sydney. I'm going to pop into the Australian Wrestling Alliance, and then I'm going to go to what's it called, Townsville. I always had a great time there. I have a few beers with the boys down there. Got an excellent wrestling school.
When are you in Sydney for AWE? Yeah.
But like I say, he's invited me over because we had such a good time last time, and he's got a good wrestling school there. So I'll just pop in there and see what he has to say. And like I say, sorry.
When are you in Sydney, Marty?
I have no idea. It's gone out of my head now. Because it's been changing with flights. I've got to try and get cheap flights, and I've got to do this and do that. But I think I start, let's just say a bit of a little tour. Starts at the end of October through till the end of November. I want to take a few sites in because, you know, there's a young lady, Lucille Brawl. She's got a school there, Brisbane. And then there's a school over in Perth. If I get time to go there, I've never been to Perth, so I'll make myself known. I'm just doing a little tour, passing my knowledge on. And if anybody wants to look at any matches on YouTube, put my name in, come and see us at the place. And if there's any up-and-coming wrestlers that want to pick me brain, I've only got one, so it's I'm there. But I can tell you stories about Andre and all the people. And I like, you know, wrestling's in my blood, and I don't mind sharing it with anybody. But like I say, I will be going to a few of the shows. In fact, I'm going to try and get as many shows as possible because there's like the opportunity. If I see some talent there, there's no reason why they can't come back to England one day. If they want to invest in themselves and get themselves over to the UK, where wrestling is pretty busy, you know, I'm sure I can fix it up if they want to come to the UK. We'll see what happens.
I think that'd be a great idea. But it is that time of the show. It is time for Guess the Aussie Slang with me, Piers. How this is going to work, I'm going to give a slang word or a phrase to Marty. He's going to tell me what it means. You know, Marty has been to Australia, you know, a few times, so I'm
I haven't been a few times. I've been once.
You've been one. Okay, I thought you've been down here a couple of times. So you've been here once.
And nobody spoke to me then, so it don't matter.
Well, I'm sure you picked up some slang over a while. So how it's going to work, I'm going to give you a slang word or a phrase. You're going to tell me what it means, okay?
I'll try.
All right. So this one is, okay, we'll start off. I'm as dry as a dead dingo's donger.
I can surmise what that means. You need a drink.
That is correct. Yeah. I'm very parched. I'm dry.
Yeah.
Okay. So next one is grouse. And I'm going to use this in a sentence. This conversation with you has been grouse.
Great.
Yeah. So grouse. Awesome. Next is cutting sick.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Cutting sick. Cutting
sick.
cutting sick. So on Saturday night, I went out to the pub with the boys, and when I got home, the wife was cutting sick.
Ill? Poorly?
No, like she was cutting sick, like she was going off. She wasn't happy. She was like just at me going, why are you been out?
Oh, you mean arguing? Sick, as in? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, cutting sick. All right.
I'll let you have that one.
All right, no worries. We'll go another one. Okay, so this is another one for you. Okay, rooted. I don't know about you, mate, but I feel rooted.
You can either be good or bad. Feeling bad.
Yeah, like actually, yeah, we'll give you that. Like rooted, like tired. Or you can say like that is rooted, which means like something's broken. But we got a couple more here. We'll go into it. So, all right. So, sink some piss. All right, and I'll put this in a sentence. So, Marty, when you come to Sydney, you and I are going to sink some piss.
Yeah, have plenty of beer.
That's it. All right, I got a couple more for you. Okay. Dead set.
Woo?
Dead set.
Oh, I set in my ways, you mean?
No, like dead set. Like, are you dead set, mate?
That could be a few things, that. I'll let you have that. In other words, dead set in my ways, you mean?
No, so dead set means like, are you serious? Like, are you like, I'm
all right,
real.
got it. Yeah,
dead,
I know what you mean.
Set. All right, so I've got a couple more. Okay, so this one is Bicky. Would you like a Bicky?
Biscuit.
There you go. All right, so I'm going to go another one. So this is going to be a multiple choice, right? So it's going to be servo, durries, bottle-o, slab, Maccas. Okay, so I'm going to put all of that in a sentence for you. Okay, Marty. So, hey, Marty, before you come over to my place, can you go past the servo, pick up a pack of durries, swing past the bottle-o, right? Pick up a slab, and then maybe pick up some Maccas on the way through.
Yeah, that's for food and beer and everything.
Yeah, but what's a servo and durries?
Servo is like the store shop.
You know what? I'll give it to you. So servo is a service station. Durries is cigarettes. Bottle-o is a liquor store, and a slab is a case of beer, and then Macca's. If you can tell me what Macca's is, that'll be the final one.
McDonald's.
There you go. I kind of feel like the UK and the English and the Australians share a lot of the similar slang.
Yeah.
No, I'm not too sure. But Marty, thank you so much for being on the show. Like, it's an amazing conversation. An hour and 40 minutes has just gone like that. I'd love to get you back on because I feel like we're
anytime you wish. Anytime you wish. And
yeah,
well, the thing is, I'm going to get in my jam jar now.
You're what, sorry?
You know what the jam jar is?
No, what's the jam jar?
Car.
The car.
And I'm going to go up the apple and pears.
Up the road?
Up the stairs.
Up the stairs, yeah, okay.
I'm going to rest my Gregory Peck.
The old back?
Neck.
Oh, the neck, okay.
Yeah. And I hope that there's a few Richard III's over there in Australia.
Dickheads?
Birds.
Oh. Man, well, there you go. Like the English slang, I need a bit of course on. But hey, man, when you're in Sydney, you know, if you're at a show we're together, definitely have to catch up for a beer and trade some slang stories.
Oh, I've got plenty of it, mate. Plenty. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And if I've offended anybody, I'm not bothered.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it. Make sure you keep up to date with our socials. Huge shout out to our sponsor Sleece. Make sure you go and check them out. Use promo code MWAPod. And also huge thank you to our guest Marty Jones for giving up his time. Hour and 40 minutes. You know, it's been a great conversation when you can just look up and see an hour and 40 just gone. But guys, we'll see you again very, very soon, where I've got some amazing guests coming up. So make sure you keep an eye out on my social media. But guys, till then, take care. All the best. Mwah! We love you. Peace.
Thank you.